Hi, my name is Todd Reed. I'm the owner of dkrentals.net. Today we're going to be talking about how we screen our tenants. So we go through a 6-step proprietary process for every application that comes into DK Rentals. And we run everyone that is 18 years or older that's looking to move into one of our properties through this process. And we also go through the same process whether it's a $700 a month house or a $7,000 a month house. And everything we do complies with fair housing. So first of all, we're going to run their credit. Now, we are not credit score driven. We're much more concerned about the details of what we find in the reports. Like we like to say, is we peel back the onion, and we want to see the details of what was going on. Do they have good trades? Are they paying the utility bills, their credit card bill, their car payment? And so we're also looking to see, are there any rent-related collections or judgments? If we see those, then that's a big red flag, and we probably are not going to approve the applicant. However, if we see issues with student loan debt or medical, we pretty much ignore that. We might ask for a few $100s extra on the security deposit, but typically we find that if they have great trades, but they are having issues with student loan debt or with medical debt, that they make great tenants. Secondly, we do a criminal background check. Now, we do not just run it for the state of Georgia, we actually run a nationwide criminal background check. Some of our competitors cut corners a little bit because it's cheaper, so they only run a state of Georgia. So we're much more thorough on when we the area of coverage for the background checks. Thirdly, we're going to do a verification of rent. So this takes on multiple forms. Here at dkrentals.net, we actually report rent payments to the credit bureaus. So what that means is if the tenant makes their payments on time, their credit score is actually going to increase. So that's a nice carrot for our tenants once they come into our fold. And because we report rent scores, that means that we have access to that data as well. So if they're living in an apartment complex that reports their rent as well, when we pull the credit, we'll get 24 months of rental payment right there in our report. That happens probably about 25% of the time. The other 75% of the time, we have to reach out to either the current property manager or the current landlord to get a verification of rent. So we're looking for, we're asking questions like, did they pay on time over the last 24 months? And if not, how many times were they late? What is their current balance? Have they given written notice? Have they taken good care of the property? Do you expect to give their full security deposit back? So we're being very careful to see what kind of tenant that we might be bringing in. And also, we are asking a lot of questions we get when we're dealing with a landlord that is the owner of the property, because a lot of times, or sometimes, a landlord will not feel comfortable sharing anything negative about their tenant because they're afraid their tenant's going to trash their house if they do. So we have to kind of ask questions at different angles to get a little more, get some better data from that landlord. Another thing we're very careful about is we will actually interview the landlord if it's a property owner to make sure that they really do own the property. So we're going to pull the tax record and see what the tax record says regarding who the owner is. We're going to ask them how much was the rent to make sure that lines up with what the tenant told us what the rent was. We're going to ask them when they moved in. So we're asking these few questions just to make sure that we're really talking to the landlord. So that's verification of rent. Number 4 is verification of income. In summary, what we're looking for is income to be at least 3 times the rent amount. And this has to be verifiable income. So if an ex-husband shows up on Friday with a wad of cash, that's not verifiable unless they can pull up bank statements and show where they deposited that cash into their accounts every Friday, and then that's verifiable. Otherwise, we're looking for pay stubs. If someone's self-employed, that's a little more complex. We're probably going to be asking for tax returns. We're going to be asking for bank statements, very similar to what someone would ask if they were underwriting for a mortgage. So that's verification of income. Number 5 is a courthouse database search. This is a very important step because it's a way to see if any evictions have been filed against the applicant. Now, some people think that, well, that'll show up in the credit report. Actually, it will not if the tenant paid. For example, a landlord might file for eviction, and then a week later the tenant pays everything, and so nothing ever hits the credit report. But it's still going to show up in the courthouse records. So that's why we want to pull those records up and see if we find anything as far as filings of evictions. And we're also looking, was the eviction filed? Was there a forcible detainer, which means they were physically put out on the street? But this also helps double check when we're talking to the landlord. If the landlord gives a clean bill of health, and then we pull the records and see that 6 months ago we filed for eviction, we know that there's some sort of discrepancy there, and so that gives us more information when we talk to the landlord to find out what's really going on. And then the last step is something that we've implemented a few years ago, and that's a social media search. Why do we do that? Well, first of all, we just want to go out there and see what kind of person this is, what kind of activities they're involved in. Again, we're very, very careful not to get into any fair housing issues, but one of the things we want to see is the photo of themselves on social media. Does that match the photo on their driver's license? And so this is a way for us to verify that we don't have identity theft. So these are the 6 steps that we go through. If the applicant makes it through those 6 steps, then we approve them, and we continue to market the property even though they're approved until they've paid us a holding fee. So that's it for how we screen our tenants. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Thank you.